Hey awesome people, welcome to another episode of Sew Addicts. Hi guys, today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a holiday dress. It's that time of the year, it's Christmas, it's New Year's, it's everything. We have all these parties, like what are we going to wear to except our ugly Christmas sweaters? Like that's it? No, you gotta look really good for these parties that are coming up. So I decided, of course, to show you guys how to make a really cute and beautiful dress for the season. And I did, yes, use a commercial pattern for this, and this was my first time using a commercial pattern. It was really scary, but I think I pulled it off. I mean, what do you guys think? I think I really pulled it off. This was my first time, like I said, so I did show you guys how to, work with the pattern because they can be a little challenging, trust me. And so if you just follow my tutorial step by step, it should pretty much be easy for you, and you don't have to just look at all the bunch of papers that are in this thing. So the pattern I used was actually this Vogue, vintage Vogue model pattern V2903. I itemized and linked everything I use in this tutorial down below for you guys, so you could actually get this pattern at Joann's online. And one thing I also wanted to make sure you guys knew was, like, when you're getting your pattern, they're often different from your actual body measurements and your size. So if you're like a size 2 or 4, your pattern size is probably going to be like an 8 or a 10, which is kind of freaking crazy, but that is just what it is. So I actually attached the table right here for you guys, so you can kind of study what your waist measurement is, your hip, your bust, and all that stuff, and you'll be able to pick the right pattern for you. They have a pattern from 6 to 22, so you have a pretty much a wide variety of sizes you can pick from that would just match you. And if it's off just even a little bit, you can just make minor adjustments here and there that don't have to require you like making a whole new pattern. So there's something I really wanted to point out to you guys, and I also wanted to point out the fabric I used for my dress was a very nice flowery holiday season fever kind of jacquard, and I got this fabric too from a local fabric store here in Chicago, Joann's fabric. So if you want to go and look for this fabric, I will say that when you're shopping for your fabric, you want to get something flowery or even plain. You don't want to get like a silk or something that has a lot of directions or stripes, because this is definitely gonna prove difficult when you're sewing the pleats and all that for the dress. So kind of keep that in mind when you're shopping for your fabric. Other than that, I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Happy holiday. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already and you love what you see so far, hey, push down that red subscribe button so you can see more awesome videos from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and let's just jump right into it. So taking a look at our patterns, the patterns are actually numbered, and this is our center front pattern, which is actually cut 2 pieces. And then we have our side front pattern, which is also cut 2 pieces. We have the third pattern, which is the center back, cut 2 pieces, and the fourth, which is the side back, cut 2 pieces as well. We also have our front facing, which is cut 2 pieces, the back facing, which is also cut 2, and we have our front yoke, which is cut 2 on fold, and the same thing for the back as well, which is also cut 2 on fold as well. And the ninth pattern is our sleeve, which is just cut 2 separately, just like 1 to 4. And the 10th is the sleeve facing, which is cut 2. Now, one thing I do want you guys to keep in mind is wherever you see these little triangles, you're supposed to snip. Now, this is the notches, and this allows for easier sewing later on. Now to get started, I have my front 2 pieces, which is the center front, and now we're actually going to be sewing our center front together. So I'm placing both of my center fronts, and I'm just going to pin this down really nicely, making sure that everything is nice and neat, and I'm just going to sew that on the sewing machine. So I went ahead and actually sewed this down. Make sure to always press your seams open at every seam. This makes it lay really nicely and looks really good. So now we're actually going to attach our side front, and as you guys can see, I actually have a notch down there, so I'm going to be placing my side front below that notch. So place yours below that notch, and then of course you want to walk your side front into the center front piece, and you also want to sew this on the sewing machine. Make sure to attach the other side front at the other side of your center front piece as well. So now that I've attached both, this is what it looks like, and this is actually a curvy part, so in order for this to lay really nice and flat, you could just snip right into your seam allowance so it could lay nice and flat. And of course you also want to press it nicely as well. So now we're actually going to be making our first pleat. So I am actually going to grab my first pattern, and if you notice, there's a part on the pattern that says stitching line, so I want to actually trace out that stitching line on my already sewn fabric. So now I'm just matching all the lines together. This pattern again is my center front, so I'm placing it on my center front, and I'm just trying to find out the position for the stitching line. So now I'm actually just tracing where that stitching line mark was. This is about, I think, a 2.5 to 3 inches line, and I'm just tracing it at the back as well because this is where I'm going to be sewing it. And you pretty much want to just sew a straight line joining those 2 points together. So now I sewed it on the sewing machine, and it should look something like this. I sewed it, and it's a straight line joining those 2 points together, and it automatically creates your pleat just like this. So again, you could just fold your pleat nicely where it's given a straight line from edge to edge to the point at your waist, and you could just press this kind of softly with your iron. So now we're going to be grabbing our center back. So in this center back piece, I actually have the pattern here because I want you guys to trace out these 3 circles that I'm showing you guys. Now these 3 circles, we're actually just going to mark those points with our chalk. So again, I'm just marking the circle right at the top on the pattern. You want to mark that, the second circle, and the third circle on your third pattern, which is your center back. So I have all these points marked out. Now this is going to be where we're actually going to stitch and have our zipper opening. So again, my center back is together, and we're going to stitch from that circle to the second circle, and then leave a wide opening, and then stitch from the third circle all the way down. So we're going to basically leave a wide opening from this point to that point. So again, you want to sew it all the way down, and when you do, it should look pretty much something like this, with this wide opening at the middle. And then this is where we're actually going to be attaching our zipper into. So you just want to place your zipper in this hole and stitch it nice and neat. So I went ahead and attached my zipper, and yeah, it looks really great. It's able to zip up nicely and zip down, of course. So that's how you want your zipper to be. So the next thing, because this is our back pattern, again, we're pretty much going to be attaching the side back exactly like we did for the front. So again, I do have a notch right there in my center back. So I'm just matching my knots together. I'm matching those notches, and I'm just gonna sew again on the sewing machine. So as you guys can see, I attach all my side backs together, and you also don't want to forget to make your pleats at every seam. The only part that doesn't have a pleat is the center back and the center front. So now we have our front piece and our back piece, and of course all you really want to do is just match both of them together at the side seam, and we're just going to sew that on the sewing machine as well. Again, you also want to create a pleat at your side seams as well. So now we're going to grab our front facing, and again, don't forget to notch all those triangles just like I said before, and you have your 2 pieces for your front facing, and then we're actually going to sew this down together, but you're going to sew about 5/8 away from the top, which is actually your seam allowance. So 5/8 away, so it creates a nice deep V on your front facing, and we're also going to be folding 5/8 at the edge as well, which is our seam allowance for the pattern. So again, I'm grabbing my front and back just like before, and I'm taking that front facing and I'm actually going to be attaching it to the neckline of my front piece. So I'm attaching it right there, center front to center front, and attaching the pieces right at the neckline as well. So you want to pin this down to make sure that it's laying really nicely and nothing is puckering. So Now we're actually going to be stitching from this edge right here all around to the top, and then from the top all the way to the other side of my neckline. So it should look something like this when you have it all sewn up, from that edge to that edge and the two sides as well. And if you want to reduce the bulkiness, you could also definitely just trim away all the excess fabric on your neckline and at the edge as well. Do not trim the top, that is going to be sewn in later. So now you could actually just flip this inside out and you have a really nice facing for your front. Again, do not forget to press this really nicely because it's just gonna bubble and it wouldn't really look good. So again, make sure to press this down nicely as well. So now I actually have pressed it down nicely, and the pieces that are flapping inside, you could really just go on your sewing machine and kind of tack them to the 5/8 seam allowance on the inside. So I'm just pinning mine down now, and I went ahead and just sewed that on the sewing machine. So I actually went ahead and also attached my back piece, which is literally the same thing for the front, just like I showed you guys earlier. And now we're actually going to be joining our shoulders together, sewing the 5/8 as well. So you don't really want to catch that inside fold, you just want to sew those two pieces together. So now we have our pattern 7 and 8, which is our yoke pattern. So you have the front and the back. So now we're actually going to grab both pieces, and you want to grab one piece from the front and one piece from the back. So as you guys can see, this is my front because it is deeper, and my back is a little bit more shallow. So you want to attach your front piece and back yoke together at the shoulders. As you guys can see, I'm just pinning this now because I'm going to sew this at the shoulders on my sewing machine. So basically you want to attach this at the shoulders, and you also want to do this for the other piece as well because we have two pieces. So now that I've sewn it together on my sewing machine, it should look something like this. Then the next thing you want to do is basically place right sides to right sides of your yoke, and we're going to sew along the neckline of my front and back yoke together. So now again, as you guys can see, I'm joining at the shoulders, and I'm just gonna sew again right there at the neckline, just the neckline, not the bottom. You just want to sew all around on the neckline, making sure that front is to front and back is to back, as you guys can see here. And now I'm really just snipping in to give my V a nice crisp V. And again, I'm just trimming away all the excess fabric at my neckline. And when you do this, you also want to flip it to the right side, of course. And when you flip it to the right side, do not also forget to press this nicely with the iron. So now that we have this piece, we're also going to just go ahead to our sleeve, and we have the sleeve and the facing piece. So now we have two pieces for our sleeve, and we're actually just going to be sewing that right there at the side seam of the sleeve, which is a short sleeve. And when you sew that at the side seam, you also want to grab your facing as well and sew that down at the side seam of your facing as well. This is going to be used to face the sleeve later on. So now I actually went ahead and sewed my sleeve down, as you guys can see, and I also sewed the facing piece down as well. Now the facing piece, one part of the facing, the top part is definitely where fits the sleeve, but the bottom part is a little bigger, so you want to keep in mind to not put the bottom part at the top of your sleeve because it's not going to fit. So now we're actually going to be treating our facing. So the bottom part, which is bigger, we're actually going to be folding that 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to top stitch that all the way around. This is going to finish the edge of your facing. So you want to fold that at 1/4 of an inch and top stitch that all the way around on the sewing machine for both pieces of the facing. So again, as you guys can see, I went ahead and sewed this down on the sewing machine, and now you pretty much want to grab your sleeve, and we're going to push the sleeve through. Make sure to attach the side seams to side seams on the facing and the sleeve, and I'm just basically pinning, and I'm actually going to be sewing this at the 5/8 of an inch for a seam allowance all the way around my sleeve. So when you have it all sewn up, it should look something like this, where your sleeves are actually facing you from the wrong side, and we are pushing up the facing into the wrong side of the sleeve. And you pretty much want to just pin this all around and actually top stitch this on the sewing machine right there. So this faces the sleeve. So now we're actually going to grab our dress and attach our sleeve. So you want to make sure to pin your sleeve right at the side seams to side seams. And the thing with the sleeve now is we are just going to attach the sleeve from our side front right there to our side back at the back. And as you guys can see, I'm clipping into my seam right there just to give me enough room and to actually see my seam allowance at that point. And I'm only going to be sewing from that point and my side front to my side back. So I went on the sewing machine and I sewed these together. You are only going to sew, like I said, from your side front to your side back, leaving the opening at the top. So now we're actually going to grab the yoke that we made earlier. So this yoke is basically going to be inserted into our dress. So this yoke is actually going to be pinned right there where it's actually showing a little bit, maybe about 3/4 or an inch, and you just want to pin it right there at the front and also at the back. Now this yoke is actually what we're going to use to attach the rest of our sleeve. So as you guys can see, I am going to be attaching the rest of my sleeve curve from before to the rest of my yoke. So I am also pinning the top of my sleeve point to the shoulder point of my yoke, making sure that they both are steady and placed nicely. And I'm just gonna walk my sleeve into the part of my yoke. Now you want to kind of ease your sleeve into this a little bit. You don't want to sew it down too tight. You want to kind of walk with it, making sure that it is eased into this part of your yoke. So again, when I finish sewing it down, as you guys can see, that curve is attached to my yoke while the bottom part is attached to the main dress. I do know this is kind of a brain buster, so if you have to rewind and fast forward, that's okay as well. So you also want to make sure that the shoulder seams for the main dress and the shoulder seams for your yoke are matching together. And you could just take a pin, making sure that the same amount of yoke showing at the front is also showing at the back. So I'm showing about 3/4 of an inch on all around my neckline. So now that I've actually pinned this all down, I'm just taking my thread and needle, and I'm actually going to be tacking my yoke at all the side seams. As you guys can see, I'm just tacking that tucker all around my seams from the front to the back, and I'm also tacking my shoulder seams as well. Tack as many places as you want. So the final step, of course, is the hem. So the hem on this pattern was 2 inches. So I'm going to be folding 2 inches for my hem. But one thing we also want to keep in mind for the hem is you want to make sure that all seams side to side are matching just like there. But when we do that, we have all this fullness at the bottom. Now, a way to get rid of this fullness is to actually sew about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch line at the bottom of our skirt with a big basting stitch. A 4.5 or a 5 inch basting stitch is what you need. So I'm just sewing a big basting stitch all around the bottom of my skirt. And now when you're done with this, I also went ahead and actually serged the bottom of my skirt, but you could also use a seam binding, you could use bias tape, you could use anything to finish the hem of your skirt in case you don't have a serger. So now I'm actually going ahead and marking the 2-inch mark for my hemline. And as you guys can see, I have my marks here. And when you mark your hemline, you pretty much just want to fold this down, as you guys can see here. And I'm pinning this down, making sure that it is in fact 2 inches. So you want to pretty much just work from seam to seam. So as you guys can see, I'm working from that seam to this seam, and I'm taking my thread and gathering that excess fabric that we just don't know how to get rid of. I'm gathering it where it fits that curve for my hem. So I'm doing it from stitch to stitch, making sure that all that fullness is being gathered into the hemline. So when you do this, you're really able to just sew your hemline nice and neat and nothing is puckering. So I did this all the way around my hem, and one thing as you do it is to also press this on the iron. This allows it to shrink and just give it a nice tightness for your hemline. So now I'm actually going to be sewing my hemline down, and I'm sewing mine about 1.5 inches. So my hem was 2 inches, so I'm making 1.5 inches stitch all around my hem. So you just want to keep sewing this down until you finish your hemline. This is really time consuming, so make sure to be patient with this part. So again, I've sewed this all around, and that's pretty much the last process of your dress, and your dress is pretty much done and ready to wear. Thank you so much for watching my tutorial, guys. I know it really was quite a bit of stuff and information, but hey, do what you got to do to make sure you have this beautiful dress. Make sure to pause, rewind, fast forward, anything you have to do to make sure that you're able to make this dress for the holiday season and for all the parties you're going to go to in a couple of weeks. You know, you're going to be looking like just a piece of cake when you get in there. You're gonna look great because a lot of people are gonna give you compliments in this dress. So hey, take your time, give yourself a couple of days, anything that you need to actually make this dress. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, give this video a big like. And I want to hear what you guys think about this tutorial or any of my other videos, so make sure to scroll down, leave me a couple of words, suggestions, opinions, ideas, concerns, questions, anything. I'm like reading those as well, so make sure to scroll down and leave me anything. And if you haven't already, I mean, come on, what are you waiting for? Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can see more awesome videos from me. I really appreciate you guys being here. Happy holidays, Christmas, New Year's, Kwanzaa, everything. I wish you guys a happy holidays, and I hope to catch you Sew Addicts next week. Bye.